Have you ever, paused to think about the invisible algorithms that are kind of running things behind the scenes in your daily life?
No.
That AI suggesting your next movie or maybe screening job applications, or even the one that whips up those really amazing, sometimes kind of weird images you see online. We're definitely living in an AI-powered world now, and, well, with all that power comes a lot of ethical questions, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And that's exactly what we're here to tackle today. We're going to do a really deep dive into the AI ethics 360-degree first principles deep research report. This was a key document from a recent CRN panel over in Berlin. Our mission really is to pull out the most crucial insights, look at it from every single angle, and connect the dots for you so you can understand not just what's happening with AI ethics, but really why it matters specifically for you.
Right, that's the goal, that 360-degree view. Because things are moving so fast in this space, we want to give you that shortcut, help you get truly well-informed. So here's a quick rundown of where we're heading today. First up, we'll look at how governments everywhere, especially the EU, are rushing to put rules in place for AI, the regulatory tsunami, you could call it. Then we'll get into those tricky ethical puzzles that just won't go away, things like bias, the need for transparency, yeah, those deepfakes messing with what's real. After that, we'll zoom out to see AI's big footprint on jobs, the economy, and, surprisingly, the environment. Then we'll dive into the AI ecosystem itself, the core dynamics, what are the key resources, the feedback loops. Where can we actually intervene to make a difference? We'll break down what it really means to make AI fair, understandable, and how it can respect our privacy. That's a big one. Following that, we'll tackle safety. How do we guarantee AI systems are safe? Who's accountable when things go wrong? How do we keep humans in control and stop misuse? We'll also look at AI's effect on work, its environmental load, those sticky copyright issues, and the rise of AI agents that act on their own. And importantly, we'll touch on some contrarian views responsibly, of course, to challenge assumptions and add some nuance. Finally, we'll wrap up with some really practical steps, things you and organizations can actually do right now to navigate all this ethically. Okay, so let's dive in. The world of AI ethics. It's moving at lightning speed, and we're here to help you make sense of it all. Right, so generative AI, it's burst onto the scene, and the productivity gains, especially in things like writing or coding, they're just astounding. But it really feels like a double-edged sword, doesn't it? What's the flip side? What's the real cost we're seeing alongside these benefits?
It absolutely is a double-edged sword, no question. While generative AI is giving us these huge productivity boosts, reports talking 30–40% gains in certain tasks, it's also seriously amplifying risks. We're seeing an explosion of misinformation, for one, biases getting baked in and scaled up like never before, and entirely new security threats are popping up.
So what does that mean for the people making the rules?
Well, policymakers are basically walking this very, very fine line. They've got to balance the economic pluses, the efficiency gains, against these really systemic risks AI brings to the table. Think about deepfakes undermining trust, or biased algorithms making decisions that affect people's lives, loans, jobs, you name it. It's kind of like, imagine a super powerful new drone is suddenly available everywhere, millions of people have it, but the safety manual, the operating instructions, they're still being written after the fact.
That's a great analogy. Writing the manual after it's already out there.
Exactly. That's pretty much where we are with AI. So the urgent job now is crafting governance that's balanced, letting us use the good stuff without getting swamped by the bad.
And it definitely seems like the European Union is taking the lead on writing that global manual, doesn't it? For businesses operating everywhere, what does this EU AI Act actually mean on the ground?
You're right. The EU AI Act is a huge deal. It officially came into force August 2024, and it's really designed to have global reach. It's not just for Europe. By August 2025, the companies providing general-purpose AI, I think the big names behind models like ChatGPT or Claude, they'll face strict new rules, transparency, risk mitigation, that sort of thing. And then by 2026, it gets even tougher for what the Act calls high-risk AI systems.
High risk? Like what sort of things?
Think medical devices, critical infrastructure management, anything that really impacts fundamental rights hiring tools, credit scoring, law enforcement tech. For those, compliance is mandatory by 2026. And the penalties for getting it wrong, they are steep. Fines can go up to 6% of companies' global annual revenue.
6%, wow.
Yeah, that translates to potentially millions, even billions for the big tech players. So the takeaway is clear. Companies operating internationally can't wait. They need to get compliance measures in place now. This is what people call the Brussels effect, right? Similar to how GDPR set a global standard for data privacy.
Ah, okay. So even if you're not in the EU, you kind of have to follow their lead if you want to play in that market.
Pretty much. We're already seeing the UK, Canada, various US states looking closely, either aligning their own rules or trying to compete. It's setting a global benchmark. So yeah, even if your HQ isn't in Brussels, if you operate internationally, you'll likely need to meet these EU standards. It's becoming the de facto global requirement.
Okay, so beyond regional laws like the EU's, you mentioned a global treaty. That sounds like a massive step. What kind of human rights are we actually talking about protecting with this Council of Europe AI Convention?
It is monumental. This Council of Europe AI Convention, which opened for signatures September 2024, it's the first international legal treaty that specifically tackles AI. It commits every country that signs it to make sure AI development and use uphold fundamental human rights. And it's broad.
Broader than just privacy.
Oh, much broader.
Hmm.
Think non-discrimination, freedom of expression, the right to a fair trial, especially important as AI gets used more in justice systems, policing, public services. The treaty mandates concrete actions like clearly labeling AI-generated content. That boosts transparency. And it requires setting up independent oversight bodies to check for compliance.
And it's not just European countries signing this.
That's the really significant part. Non-European states signed on to the US, Japan, the UK. This signals that by, say, 2025 or 2026, we should expect pretty solid international legal norms around AI to take shape. Governments worldwide will be expected to police AI developers and users within their borders, making sure they stick to these fundamental rights. It all fits into this bigger picture of global AI governance really heating up. You've got the UN, the OECD, G7, the African Union, everyone's putting out principles. But the core idea driving this treaty is ensuring human in command and fairness by design, making those the default, not just nice-to-haves.
It's actually incredible how fast these regulations are moving. But, even with all this new oversight, some of these ethical problems seem really, really stubborn. We keep hearing AI models are getting smarter, almost flawless sometimes. So how is it that bias just keeps hanging around? What are they still getting wrong?
That's such a critical point, and it hits at why bias is so tricky. Even with these amazing advances in LLMs like GPT-4 or Claude 3, these implicit biases are still there. They're persistent. You see it in subtle ways, but ways that matter. Like studies show models might link a negative words more often with certain names or associate women less with STEM fields compared to men.
But why? Is the AI itself prejudiced?
Not inherently, no. The problem is they learn from the massive data sets they're trained on. And that data, it's full of our existing societal biases, stereotypes, historical inequalities. It's a mirror to our own flawed world in a way. The Stanford AI Index report keeps highlighting this year after year. It's an ongoing challenge.
So what's the bottom line then? If technical fixes aren't enough?
It means companies need to do more than just tweak algorithms. We're talking about things like bias bounties, paying experts to hunt for biases, and making standardized bias audits a routine part of the process. Without that kind of proactive effort, businesses face real risks. Discrimination lawsuits, sure, but also serious damage to their brand, to public trust. The root is often in the human data, which makes it a really deep-seated problem.
Okay, so if the models are learning from potentially biased data that leads me to transparency, how are we supposed to trust what these things are doing if they're kind of a black box? Are we finally getting those, nutrition labels for AI you mentioned earlier?
The nutrition label for AI. I like that.
Yeah.
And yes, the good news is we are seeing progress on transparency. It's slow, maybe, but steady improvement. There's been a real shift. Something like 57% of major AI developers now share some details about their models. That's up quite a bit from 37% just the year before in 2023. Things like model cards or system documents are becoming much more standard. They give you insights into, what the model's for, how well it performs, its known limits.
So what should people be doing with this information?
Well, stakeholders, that means regulators, businesses using AI, even you as an individual user should be demanding these documents, asking for that transparency. By 2026, expect these transparency reports, these data sheets, to move from being a nice-to-have to a legal requirement, or at least a market expectation. The EU AI Act already demands it for high-risk AI. And this push really comes from the public, too. Surveys show most people, like 3 out of 4 Europeans, want AI they can understand, and that respects their privacy. It's all about building trust by opening up that black box, even if it's just a crack.
Okay, transparency is improving. But that brings us to maybe the scariest part for a lot of people. Deepfakes. The fake media stuff. It feels like there's a new disturbing example every week. Are we? Are we already living in a post-truth world? Can we believe anything anymore?
It's a totally understandable fear, and it really shakes our basic trust in information. The stats on deepfakes are, frankly, alarming. We went from maybe tens of thousands of deepfake videos a few years ago to estimates of over 500,000 by 2023. And projections for 2025, they're talking millions. And it's not just pranks, it's sophisticated fraud, political manipulation, spreading harmful disinformation at scale.
And the detection tools can't keep up.
That's the challenge. Detection tech is improving, but it's constantly playing catch-up. In a controlled lab, maybe detection is 95% accurate, but out in the wild, online, that accuracy can plummet, sometimes below 70%. It's this misinformation arms race. AI creates the fakes, other AI tries to detect them, and right now, creation often seems a step ahead.
So what does that mean for us, the users? How do we navigate this?
It means platforms and governments are scrambling. They're pushing for content authentication, think cryptographic watermarks, standards like C2PA to track where content came from. There's even talk of banning undisclosed deepfakes in certain contexts. But for you, personally, it means you have to cultivate a critical eye, a skeptical mindset. You need to learn to trust but verify everything you see and hear online, especially if it triggers a strong emotional reaction. The old saying, seeing is believing, it's fundamentally broken now. Advanced digital literacy isn't just helpful anymore, it's absolutely essential.
All this talk about deepfakes, bias, it leads to another huge worry for many people. Their jobs. Is my job safe? Is it really the robot apocalypse this time?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the reality, at least based on current evidence, is more nuanced than the whole robot apocalypse scenario. Generative AI could potentially affect or be exposed to automation, maybe up to 300 million jobs worldwide, especially those routine white-collar tasks. But what we're seeing more often, for now, is AI augmenting human tasks rather than completely replacing jobs. Think about customer service agents using AI tools to answer queries faster. Their productivity goes up. Goldman Sachs even predicted AI could add something like 7% to global GDP. So it's not all doom and gloom on the economic front.
Okay, so augmentation more than replacement, for now at least. What does that mean for workers and policymakers?
It means there's an urgent need for workforce reskilling, redefining tasks. People need to learn how to work with AI effectively, and policy needs to step up, bolstering social safety nets for those whose jobs are displaced, and incentivizing companies to use AI to complement humans, not just slash costs by replacing them. History shows big tech shifts often create more jobs eventually, but that transition can be really painful if we don't manage it proactively and fairly.
That's a helpful way to frame the job situation.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned AI's environmental footprint earlier. That's something I honestly hadn't thought much about. The digital world feels so clean, invisible. How big is AI's carbon footprint, really?
It's a really important point, and you're right, it's often overlooked because it feels intangible. But the physical footprint is very real and quite significant. Just training one large model like GPT-3 is estimated to have emitted around 502 tons of co-euro.
502 tons. What does that even mean in real terms?
Well, think of it like this. That's roughly the annual emissions of about 100 typical cars, or the electricity an average U.S. home uses in maybe 120 years, for one model training run. And that's just training. The day-to-day usage, the inference part, when millions of people are querying things like ChatGPT, that now accounts for maybe 60% of AI's total energy use. Each query uses a bit of water for cooling data centers, maybe around 0.3 milliliters, and about 10 watt-hours of energy. It all adds up incredibly fast.
Wow, so AI's environmental impact is actually substantial.
It is. Some estimates put AI's carbon footprint in the same ballpark as the entire aviation industry. And without serious changes, it's projected to soar. So the implication. We should expect to see green AI metrics become standard. Pressure on tech companies to use 100% renewable energy for their data centers will only grow. There's also a huge push towards designing more energy-efficient models and hardware. And it's not just energy. The water usage in data centers is a massive concern, especially in dry regions. It's a tangible environmental cost.
We've talked about specific impacts, jobs, environment, bias.
Yeah.
But let's zoom out again. You mentioned the AI ecosystem. It sounds incredibly complex. Who are the main actors in this whole system?
You're spot on. It's a vast, interconnected web. Think of it like a complex organism. When we talk about the AI ecosystem, we're drawing a boundary around a lot of different players. You've got the foundation model developers, the big labs like OpenAI, Google DeepMind, Meta AI, Anthropic, building the core technology. Then there are the deployers and integrators. These are companies, startups, hospitals, government agencies, you name it, who actually use these models in products and services. We also have embodied AI and robotics, putting AI into the physical world. Self-driving cars, warehouse robots, advanced prosthetics.
Okay, so the creators, the users, the robots. Who else?
Crucially, you have the data and compute supply chains. This is the bedrock. Companies providing massive data sets, cloud providers offering huge GPU clusters for training, the semiconductor fabs making the specialized chips. You've got the platforms, app stores, cloud marketplaces that distribute and provide access to AI tools. And then, of course, end users, that's everyone interacting with AI daily. Plus, governments setting rules, and civil society, academics, NGOs, standards bodies providing scrutiny and research. Our review also includes the externalities, the wider impacts like climate change, shifts in public trust, economic disruption, and the feedback loops connecting everyone. But importantly, we're focusing on the real-world observable trends likely through maybe 2040. We're not getting into purely fictional sci-fi scenarios like superintelligence taking over. It's about the system we see developing now. Now, within this system, it helps to think about stocks and flows. Stocks are like reservoirs of key resources, and flows are the rates at which these resources change. Each has its own dynamics. Let's start with compute stock. This is the total available AI processing power, the horsepower. Flows in are massive R&D investments, billions pouring into new hardware from the big cloud players. But flows can be restricted by things like export controls on advanced chips. And flows out happen when models are trained. GPT-4 used thousands of GPUs for months.
Okay, compute power. What else?
Data stock. The giant pool of information used for training. Flows in are constant web scraping, user data collection. But flows out or restrictions are increasing due to privacy laws like GDPR, websites blocking scrapers. Restricted content in big data sets like Common Crawl jumped from maybe 5% to 30% recently. Synthetic data tries to fill the gap, but that has its own issues. Then talent stock. The pool of AI experts, researchers, engineers. Flows in come from universities, training programs, but there's a big brain drain flow towards big tech, concentrating talent and leaving gaps elsewhere, especially in the global south. Capital stock, the money invested in AI. Flows in are huge right now, record VC funding, corporate R&D, government grants, but there's always a risk of a flow out if we hit an AI winter or a major public backlash.
Right, the money flow. What about less tangible things?
Exactly. Trust and public acceptance, a crucial intangible stock. Scandals or accidents cause a rapid outflow, eroding trust. Transparency and proven safety help replenish it. Rights and liability exposure. The accumulated legal risk. New laws like the EU AI Act rapidly increase this stock. Compliance efforts try to offset it. And finally, emissions and environmental debt. The running total of carbon and water used. Every training run, every query adds to this stock. Efficiency gains in renewables can slow the growth, but it's accumulating. Each of these stocks influences the others through feedback loops.
So the system isn't just sitting there, it's constantly reacting to itself through these feedback loops. How does that actually work? Can you give some examples?
Precisely. These loops are what make the system dynamic. They're causal chains that either reinforce a trend, making it snowball, or balance it, acting like brakes or stabilizers. A classic reinforcing one is the capability investment loop, R1. Better AI capabilities lead to more utility, more profit. That attracts more investment. More investment fuels R&D, better compute, leading to even better capabilities. It's the engine of AI progress.
Okay, the growth engine. What about things that slow it down or correct it?
That's where balancing loops come in. Take the incident trust regulation loop, B1. An AI incident happens, maybe a self-driving car crash or a biased algorithm causing harm. This erodes public trust. Lower trust leads to regulatory pressure. Stricter rules might slow deployment or require more safety checks, which hopefully reduces future incidents. It's a stabilizing feedback, but often slow and reactive.
Are there loops that are just bad, toxic ones?
Absolutely. The misinformation amplification loop, R3, is a prime example. Sensational AI outputs, shocking deepfakes, clickbait articles grab attention. More attention means more profit for platforms or more reach for bad actors. This incentivizes creating even more sensational AI content. It's a toxic spiral undermining information integrity.
What about the job automation stuff we discussed?
That's the automation labor market loop, B2. It's complex, often balancing. AI automates tasks, boosting productivity, maybe lowering labor costs. This creates pressure to automate more. But job losses create political pressure, leading to policies like retraining or safety nets, which can counteract the automation push. It's a slow tug of war.
Are there positive reinforcing loops besides just capability?
Yes, the trust and adoption loop, R6, is key. If AI is developed and deployed ethically, reliably, safely, it builds user trust. Trust leads to a wider adoption. Positive outcomes from that adoption, better services, helpful tools, further strengthen public support. It's a virtuous cycle, but only if the ethics are handled well. There's also the fascinating data feedback quality decay loop, B3. As AI generates tons of content online, that content can get scraped back into training data for new AIs. If too much synthetic or low-quality AI content pollutes the data pool, future model quality might degrade, sometimes called model collapse. If models get worse, people might rely less on flawed AI data, potentially reducing the influence of AI-generated junk. It's a potential self-correction, but also a risk.
And what about companies just pretending to be ethical?
Ah, the ethics washing loop. B3 with a delay. A company puts out glossy ethics principles, maybe does some superficial things. This might temporarily reduce criticism. But because there's no real change, incidents keep happening. Eventually, trust collapses, often much more severely because of the earlier deception. That delayed negative feedback then kicks the regulatory and trust loops into high gear.
It's like a giant complex machine with all these interconnected gears. If we actually want to steer this thing to make a positive difference, where are the best places to push? Where's the leverage?
That's the critical question. Finding the leverage points, places where a small push creates big changes. Donella Meadows' work on systems thinking is brilliant here. These points range from shallow to deep. Shallowest are parameters, like tweaking numbers. Putting a carbon tax on AI compute energy use, for example. It has an effect, but often needs constant adjustment. Deeper is influencing feedback strength, making the system learn faster. Mandatory public reporting of AI incidents strengthens that incident trust regulation loop. Real-time, understandable audit logs give faster feedback when things go wrong.
Okay, so making the system more responsive. What's next?
Information flows. Ensuring the right information gets to the right people. Making AI decisions explainable to those affected. Creating public databases of AI systems like the EU is doing. Transparency changes behavior. Even deeper are the system rules. These are the fundamental constraints or incentives. Mandating human-in-the-loop for high-risk decisions is a powerful rule change. New laws assigning clear legal liability for AI harms fundamentally change developer incentives.
Rules sound pretty powerful. Is there anything deeper?
Yes, influencing self-organization, how the system adapts and evolves on its own. Fostering open-source AI development, supporting shared safety research, developing open standards. These allow the system to become more diverse, resilient, and less reliant on top-down control. Deeper still, changing the goals of the system. Right now, a lot of AI development is driven by maximizing profit or engagement. What if the goal shifted to maximizing human well-being, or minimizing environmental impact, or reducing inequality? You change the fundamental goal the system is optimizing for, everything else starts to shift.
And the deepest level?
The paradigm. The shared mindset, the underlying beliefs about AI. Shifting from seeing AI primarily as a tool for automation and profit to seeing it as a tool for human flourishing, augmentation, and collaboration. If developers and society deeply internalize an ethical paradigm, a do-no-harm principle, respect for human agency, then safety and ethics get built in from the start, naturally guiding all the other loops. Changing paradigms is the hardest. It takes education, leadership, cultural shifts. But it's also the most transformative leverage point for steering AI towards a truly beneficial future.
Okay, let's really dig into some of these specific areas now, starting with fairness, bias, and what you called representational harms. Why is this such a critical issue right now?
It's absolutely critical because AI is being used more and more in really high-stakes decisions. Things that profoundly affect people's lives, hiring, loan applications, even policing strategies or medical diagnoses. If these AI systems are biased, they don't just mirror the inequalities already present in society. They can actually amplify them, perpetuate discrimination on a massive scale. This destroys trust, obviously, causes real harm, and often violates existing laws, EU non-discrimination rules, U.S. employment laws via the EEOC. We worry about both allocative harms, unfairly distributing resources or opportunities, and representational harms, reinforcing damaging stereotypes.
Can you give some concrete examples of where this has actually happened?
Sure. The evidence is unfortunately quite strong. A major NIST study back in 2019 found facial recognition tech had way higher false positive rates, sometimes 10 to 100 times higher for Black and East Asian faces compared to white faces. Black women often face the highest error rates. That can lead to wrongful accusations. In language AI, UNESCO reported in 2024 that models like GPT-3.5 associated women much more with domestic roles, while GPT-4 linked men more with leadership and STEM. Subtle but reinforces stereotypes and decision systems, too. A famous 2019 healthcare algorithm ended up allocating fewer resources to Black patients with the same level of illness as white patients. Why? Because it used past healthcare cost as a proxy for illness severity, and historically, Black patients had less spent on them due to access issues. And remember Amazon's experimental hiring AI back in 2018? They had to scrap it because it learned from past hiring data to prefer male candidates. These aren't theoretical risks, they have real-world consequences.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like more than just a technical glitch. It's tangled up with deep societal issues reflected in the data. What are the big ongoing debates around fairness?
Exactly. It's far from simple. One huge debate is just defining what fairness even means in this context. Do we aim for equal outcomes across different demographic groups? Like, should error rates be the same for everyone? Or should we focus on individual accuracy, making sure each person gets the right assessment? The tricky part is, different mathematical definitions of fairness can actually conflict. You might improve fairness for one group according to one metric, but make it worse according to another. It's a complex trade-off. NYC's 2023 law requiring bias audits for hiring tools is a step, but even then, what level of disparate impact is considered unfair? That's still hotly debated.
And where does the bias actually come from? The data or the model itself?
That's another big debate. Bias in versus bias out. Is the main culprit the bias training data? If so, maybe better data curation is the key. Or does the AI model's architecture, how it learns, actually amplify existing biases? Maybe the AI is just reflecting the world accurately, warts and all. And then you have a more contrarian view, sometimes raising the question of an overfocus on bias. They might argue that aggressive attempts to de-bias an AI could hurt its overall accuracy, or even clash with free expression, posing hypotheticals like, should an AI ever lie to seem fair? It shows just how thorny these ethical dilemmas get.
Wow, yeah, no easy answers there. So given this complexity, what practical steps, what guardrails are actually being put in place to try and make AI systems fairer?
Because it's so complex, the approach has to be multi-layered. First, bias audits are becoming much more common, sometimes legally required, like that NYC law for hiring tools. Companies have to publish audit results showing the impact on different gender and racial groups. Second, regulatory compliance is a huge driver. The EU AI Act mandates bias risk assessment for high-risk systems. The US EEOC clearly states that using AI in hiring doesn't excuse you from anti-discrimination laws. If your AI discriminates, you're still liable. Third, there's a lot of focus on dataset curation, trying to diversify training data, strategically using synthetic data to fill gaps. But that has to be done really carefully to avoid creating new biases. Fourth, building in human override and appeal processes is vital. Things like the GDPR's right to request a human review of an automated decision. Having humans in the loop, especially for critical decisions, acts as a crucial safety net against obviously biased outcomes. These measures push organizations to think about fairness systematically, not just as an afterthought.
But it sounds like there are still big challenges, even with these guardrails.
Absolutely. Big, open questions remain. How do we measure bias effectively? Especially intersectional bias where multiple factors overlap. Who gets to decide what's fair? Regulators, the communities affected, the developers? How do we handle the potential trade-offs between fairness and accuracy? How do we scale fairness globally when biases differ across cultures? And critically, what happens when AI does cause harm due to bias? How do we provide effective redress, like compensating people unfairly denied opportunities? It's very much an ongoing process.
Okay, let's shift to transparency and explainability. We talked about the black box problem. Why is opening that up, making it a glass box, so important? And are we actually getting there?
Opening up that black box is fundamentally important for several reasons. If we don't know why an AI made a decision, how can we hold anyone accountable if it's wrong? How can we trust its output? How can we even diagnose and fix errors? In high-stakes areas, medicine, law, this opacity can actually violate people's rights, like the GDPR's right to an explanation. Transparency is also essential for scrutiny by regulators, auditors, the public. It helps prevent automation bias, where people just blindly trust the AI because they can't question its logic.
And are we making progress? Are we seeing more glass boxes?
We are definitely seeing progress. The use of model cards and system cards is a really positive trend. A few years ago, detailed documentation was rare. Now, most major AI releases come with extensive reports detailing the model's design, intended use, performance, limitations, risks. Think of OpenAI's 100-page card for GPT-4. That's a big step up. We're also seeing improvements in interpretability tools techniques that try to highlight which factors most influenced an AI's decision. These are being used more in finance and healthcare, often driven by regulatory needs, and efforts around provenance watermarks are gaining momentum trying to label AI-generated content so we know its origin. It's all moving towards greater transparency, though maybe not a fully transparent glass box just yet for the most complex models.
So progress, yes. But you mentioned controversies earlier. Can transparency go too far? And can we actually trust the explanations AI gives us?
Those are definitely the core tensions right now. One big debate is how much transparency is too much. Companies worry that revealing everything, their training data, their exact model architecture, could expose valuable intellectual property or make it easier for bad actors to exploit vulnerabilities. Security versus scrutiny. Critics argue that without full access, especially for independent auditors, it's hard to verify claims about safety and fairness. How much access should regulators have? That's a key question.
And what about the explanations themselves?
Right. Another issue is defining explainable enough. For really complex AI, a perfect step-by-step explanation might be impossible or impractical. So what level of approximation is okay? Just listing the top factors. Is that enough for a medical diagnosis or a loan rejection? It depends hugely on the context and risk. And crucially, there's the risk that explanations can mislead. Research shows some tools might give plausible-sounding reasons that aren't actually the real drivers of the AI's decision. They can oversimplify or even be flat-out wrong. So we can't just blindly trust the AI's own explanation without critical thinking and validation.
Given all that complexity, what are the practical steps, the real guardrails being put in place to make AI systems more transparent in a useful way?
The focus is on practical, actionable measures. First, comprehensive documentation is becoming standard data sheets for datasets describing the training data, model cards detailing the model itself. The EU AI Act even mandates public summaries of training data for foundation models. Second, integrating explainability tools into deployment. So when you interact with an AI, maybe for a loan application, it might show you the main factors influencing the decision right there. Third, user disclosure and consent. Being clearly told when you're interacting with an AI, not a human. And labeling AI-generated content like, this image was created with AI is becoming expected. The EU Act has specific rules on this. Fourth, robust audit trails and logging for critical systems, recording the inputs, outputs, key factors for important decisions. This creates a trail for accountability, debugging, and regulatory checks. It's a core requirement for high-risk AI in the EU.
But there's still lingering questions, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Can humans actually understand the explanations, even if they're provided? How do we make explanations dynamic, context-specific, truly useful? There's still tension between transparency and protecting IP, especially around training data. How will transparency demands affect innovation speed? Will they force trade-offs with accuracy? And maybe the biggest question, will transparency actually lead to better governance, better outcomes? Or do we need new institutions like specialized AI auditors to really bridge the gap between developers and the public? Transparency is a means, not an end in itself.
Okay, let's pivot to privacy and data governance. With AI models needing so much data, why is protecting individual data more crucial than ever?
Privacy is fundamental. It's about individual autonomy, dignity, and trust. And AI dials up the stakes dramatically. Why? Because these models can, sometimes unintentionally, memorize and leak personal data they were trained on. Researchers have shown LLMs spitting out verbatim personal info addresses, phone numbers, things that should never have been in the training data. Misuse of data by AI systems can lead to real harm, like the terrible Dutch tax authority scandal where privacy violations ruined lives. Public trust completely hinges on AI handling data responsibly. We've seen regulators step in forcefully, like Italy temporarily banning ChatGPT over GDPR concerns about data collection and lack of legal basis.
Can you give more examples of these risks and how they're being addressed?
Sure. The Carlini study from 2021 was a wake-up call, showing models memorizing sensitive data. The Dutch scandal is a stark reminder of real-world harm from privacy violations in AI systems. Italy's ban highlighted the need for transparency and legal justification for training data. But there's also progress on the solutions side. Privacy-enhancing technologies, PETs, are becoming really important. Things like differential privacy, used by Apple and Google, add mathematical noise to data to protect individuals while still allowing analysis. Federated learning lets models train on data spread across devices without the raw data ever leaving. Think Google's keyboard predictions or medical studies using hospital data safely. Encrypted computation is developing too, though it's still computationally heavy. We're also seeing stronger data governance processes become standard chief data officers, mandatory data protection impact assessments, DPIAs, for AI projects under GDPR.
So it's not just about hackers stealing data, but what the AI itself does with it. What are the biggest privacy controversies currently raging?
Exactly, and the controversies are huge. Web scraping and consent is a massive legal battleground. Can AI companies just scrape everything publicly available online, including your comments or photos, to train their models? Is that legitimate interest under GDPR? Creators and platforms are pushing back hard. Then there's the anonymization fallacy. We think anonymized data is safe, but AI is getting incredibly good at re-identifying people by linking different pieces of seemingly anonymous data. The NYC taxi data leak proved this years ago. It forces us to question if true anonymization is even possible. Surveillance versus privacy in public is another flashpoint, especially with facial recognition. The EU AI Act is putting strict limits on real-time police use, but the debate continues globally. And employee privacy versus workplace monitoring is exploding. AI tracking productivity, analyzing emotions, monitoring drivers. It raises serious surveillance concerns and is leading to lawsuits. Finally, with personal AI assistance, where does your data live? On your device, safely under your control. Or in the cloud, potentially exposed. That's a critical design choice with huge privacy implications.
It's a minefield. What are the key practical guardrails individuals and organizations need to rely on to navigate this?
Proactive measures are essential. For organizations, clear opt-in, opt-out mechanisms are non-negotiable. Users need control. OpenAI shifted its API policy on data usage for training. Websites use no-I tags. That's progress. Integrating privacy-enhancing technologies, PETs, like differential privacy or federated learning, wherever possible is key. Building robust data governance infrastructure, knowing where your data comes from, where it goes, lineage, maybe even being able to unlearn specific data points from a model. Conducting privacy impact assessments, PIAs, before deploying new AI systems involving personal data is crucial, often legally required. Using anonymization and synthetic data can help, but with caution, knowing the re-identification risks. And finally, continuous monitoring for leaks and having incident response plans ready, treating privacy breaches as seriously as cyber attacks.
And looking ahead, what are the big unknowns in AI privacy?
Several big ones. Will we get global consistency in regulation or a messy patchwork? How do we handle group privacy, AI inferring sensitive things about whole communities, not just individuals, or inferring things about you based on the groups you belong to? How do we balance strong privacy with the benefits of AI personalization? Can we create regulatory sandboxes to allow innovation while still protecting rights? It's a constant balancing act, requiring vigilance at every step of the AI lifecycle.
Okay, let's move into safety and robustness. This sounds like making sure AI systems don't just work, but work reliably and don't cause harm, right? Why is this so critical?
Absolutely. It's critical because AI is moving into domains where failures can have catastrophic consequences. Self-driving cars, medical diagnosis, managing critical infrastructure, even foundation models generating harmful content. Safety is about reliability, stability, predictability. Does the AI do what we intend it to do consistently? And crucially, does it avoid doing dangerous things we didn't intend? A big part of this is worrying about emergent behaviors, the AI developing unexpected, potentially risky capabilities or strategies that weren't explicitly programmed. As AI gets more powerful and autonomous, ensuring safety becomes exponentially more important and challenging. Regulators and even the AI companies themselves are putting a huge emphasis on rigorous testing and safety standards.
What's the evidence that safety is being taken seriously? What are people actually doing?
We're seeing a real push to institutionalize safety practices. Red teaming is a big one. That's where teams actively try to break the AI, find its flaws, probe its vulnerabilities before it's released. Companies like Anthropic and Google have dedicated red teams and even run public challenges. There's also a lot of work on robustness techniques, like adversarial training, deliberately feeding the AI weird or malicious inputs during training to make it more resilient. We're seeing growing demand for external, independent audits to verify safety claims, similar to how physical products get certified. But there are still significant testing gaps. We're pretty good at testing specific functions, but evaluating systemic risks, how multiple AIs interact, or the long-term psychological impacts on users, that's still really hard to do comprehensively.
It sounds like a constant battle. When people debate AI safety, what are the main points of contention? Is it about predicting doom or more about practical control?
It's often a mix, and the debate can get heated. One major tension is between focusing on existential risks, the AI doom scenarios like rogue superintelligence, versus addressing immediate, tangible harms like bias, accidents, or privacy violations that are happening right now. Where should we put our resources and attention? Both are important, but the balance is debated. Another big one is open source AI versus safety. Does making models open allow more people to find and fix flaws, making them safer overall? Or does it just make it easier for bad actors to misuse powerful AI for harmful purposes? There are strong arguments on both sides, and the issue of emergent behaviors keeps coming up. As AI gets more complex, especially systems of multiple interacting agents, can we truly predict and control everything they might do? That raises fundamental questions about controllability.
So how do we actually try to prevent these systems from causing harm, intended or unintended? What are the practical guardrails for managing safety?
The approach involves multiple layers of defense. First, structured risk assessments are becoming standard, especially under rules like the EU AI Act, systematically identifying potential failure modes and mitigating them throughout the AI lifecycle. Second, red teaming and adversarial testing need to be continuous. Not just a one-off check before release, but ongoing probing to find new vulnerabilities as the AI evolves or the environment changes. Third, building robustness techniques directly into the models through things like adversarial training, making them inherently more resilient. Plus, having rapid patching processes for discovered flaws. Fourth, auditing and certification against emerging standards, like ISO standards for AI risk management. Independent audits add credibility. And finally, for highly autonomous systems, having kill switches or circuit breakers is crucial, a way for humans to intervene and shut things down in an emergency, whether it's a drone or a trading algorithm going haywire.
What are the big unanswered safety questions we're still wrestling with?
Several big ones. How do we effectively evaluate those systemic risks and subtle qualitative harms? How do we scale up safety testing? Can AI reliably test other AI? What happens when safety audits fail? Who is accountable? And how do we prepare for the risks of much more advanced, potentially generally intelligent or highly autonomous systems in the future? This includes exploring ideas like constitutional AI, trying to bake fundamental safety principles into the AI's core design. Safety is definitely not a solved problem.
That brings us neatly to accountability and liability. If an AI does cause harm, who picks up the pieces? Who's responsible? This must be really challenging existing laws.
It's hugely challenging. Clarifying responsibility is vital, not just for compensating victims, but also to incentivize developers and deployers to be careful in the first place. Our existing legal frameworks, product liability, negligence, weren't really designed for autonomous, opaque systems. We're seeing efforts to adapt. The EU is working on specific AI liability directives to make it easier to sue for AI-caused harm. Courts are starting to grapple with this too. Deliveroo was fined in Italy for a discriminatory algorithm affecting workers. Clearview AI got fined for illegal face data scraping. Banks have been fined for faulty AI credit scoring. Even the insurance industry is starting to react, offering specialized algorithm liability policies. It's a rapidly evolving legal landscape.
So we're not blaming the AI itself, right? No robot rights or responsibilities here. What are the main legal arguments and controversies?
Yeah, definitely not. The consensus is clear. AI is a tool. Humans or corporations are responsible. But the controversies are significant. There's the debate about strict liability versus innovation. Should developers be strictly liable for any harm, or should there be a safe harbor if they followed best practices to avoid chilling innovation? Causation and opacity are huge hurdles. How do you prove legally that a complex, opaque AI decision directly caused the harm? It's technically very difficult. This leads to discussions about algorithmic foreseeability should developers have anticipated the risk. Professional liability is another hot area. If a doctor or lawyer relies on faulty AI output, who's liable? Increasingly, the professional using the tool is expected to verify its output. We saw that case where a lawyer got sanctioned for citing fake cases generated by ChatGPT. And government immunity is a big question. When a government uses AI for public services and it messes up, can citizens sue? The Dutch welfare scandal highlighted this accountability gap.
Given these legal minefields, what practical steps should companies be taking to manage their accountability and liability risks when using AI?
Several practical steps are crucial. First, clear contracts and service level agreements, SLAs. These need to explicitly spell out responsibilities, usage guidelines, limitations, and liability between AI providers and users. Second, strong internal accountability mechanisms. Things like detailed audit trails for AI decisions, internal reviews, maybe even algorithmic accountability reports to document processes and risk mitigation. Third, human-in-the-loop oversight for critical decisions combined with ethics boards or review panels adds a layer of human judgment and potential accountability. Fourth, comprehensive AI incident response plans, knowing exactly what to do when an AI system fails or causes harm, how to investigate, mitigate, notify, learn, treating it like a major security breach.
What are the big open questions still facing us in AI accountability?
How do we achieve global consistency in liability laws? What level of AI auditability will be required for legal evidence? Will we need tamper-proof logs? What role will insurance play? Will it become mandatory for some AI, effectively making insurers regulators? And could we eventually see criminal liability for reckless deployment of AI that leads to severe harm? These are major legal and ethical questions that will shape AI's future.
Okay, let's talk about human oversight and human AI teaming. Why is it so important to keep humans involved even as AI gets incredibly capable?
Keeping humans involved, or in the loop, is crucial because humans bring things AI lacks. Ethical judgment, common sense, empathy, the ability to handle truly novel situations AI wasn't trained on. Human oversight helps ensure AI performs as intended, aligns with our values, and provides a path for recourse if something goes wrong. We see this everywhere in high-risk areas, pilots overseeing autopilots, doctors interpreting AI diagnostic suggestions. Often it's human on the loop, monitoring and intervening when needed, like content moderators. Though we have to be careful about automation bias, humans getting complacent and over-trusting the AI. Deployment often starts cautiously with human in the loop, approval needed, and moves to human on the loop monitoring as confidence grows.
So it's not just about having a human somewhere, but making sure their involvement is actually meaningful. What are the debates around what that really means?
Exactly. Meaningful oversight is key. One big debate is the difference between human in the loop, active approval, versus human on the loop, passive monitoring. What level is appropriate for which risk? The EU's expert group defined it as needing to be active, informed, capable, and empowered oversight. There's also the tension between automation benefits and human labor concerns. Is requiring a human check just protecting jobs, or is it an essential ethical safeguard? And really practical issue is the trust versus burden trade-off. If you overload human overseers with too many AI decisions to review, they get fatigued, they start rubber stamping, and safety can actually decrease. Finding the right balance, focusing human attention where it's most needed, is a huge challenge.
So how do we design systems and processes to ensure human oversight is effective and not just a box-ticking exercise?
Several practical guardrails help. First, mandating human in the loop for high-impact decisions, especially those affecting fundamental rights or safety. The AI advises, the human decides. GDPR's right to human review points this way. Second, proper training and competence for human overseers. They need to understand the AI's limits, how to interpret its outputs, when to trust it and when to question it, like training radiologists to work with AI diagnostics. Third, providing user control and options for human interaction. The classic press zero for a human is a simple example. Users should have recourse to human judgment. Fourth, designing effective human-on-the-loop dashboards and tools, visualizations and alerts that help humans supervise AI efficiently without being overwhelmed. Think air traffic control displays. Finally, using graduated autonomy levels, like the SAE levels for driving, to classify AI capabilities and match the right level of human oversight to the system's autonomy and risk.
And the remaining challenges in human oversight.
Big questions remain. When, if ever, is it okay to remove the human from the loop entirely if AI becomes demonstrably safer? How do we design optimal human-AI teams, allocating tasks effectively? How do we manage the mental load and burnout of human overseers like content moderators? Does oversight fully absolve developers of liability? And how do we protect human dignity, ensuring people don't feel powerless or dehumanized by AI decisions? It requires ongoing research, policy work, and societal dialogue.
Let's move to information integrity. This feels like a huge battleground: misinformation, deepfakes, deciding what's real online. Why is this so critical?
It's critical because our ability to trust information is fundamental to everything: democracy, social trust, even personal relationships. AI-generated content can now mimic reality so well and be produced so cheaply and at such scale that it threatens to completely overwhelm our information ecosystem. Think deepfake videos of politicians saying things they never said, swaying elections. Think AI-generated fake news articles flooding social media faster than anyone can debunk them. Think deepfake porn used to harass and silence individuals. It undermines our shared sense of reality. The World Economic Forum lists AI-driven misinformation as a top global risk.
What's the evidence showing how bad this problem is already?
The evidence is alarming. The number of deepfake videos detected exploded from maybe 95,000 in 2020 to around 500,000 by 2023, with millions projected by 2025. Deepfake fraud is soaring. Remember that CEO voice clone scam? AI bots are routinely used in state-sponsored propaganda campaigns and to generate spam. And detection technology, while improving, is struggling to keep pace. Lab accuracy is high, but real-world accuracy is often much lower, maybe less than 70%. Even OpenAI pulled its own AI text detector because it wasn't reliable enough. That fake Pentagon explosion image in May 2023 briefly tanked the stock market, showing the real-world impact.
It really is that misinformation arms race. AI versus AI. What are the main controversies swirling around this fight for truth online?
Huge controversies. One is the clash between free speech and regulating fake content. Where do you draw the line? Banning all deepfakes could stifle parody in art. How do you write laws that target malicious fakes without enabling censorship? Another is the attribution burden. Who's responsible for labeling AI content? The tool creator, the user sharing it. Watermarks can be removed, it's hard to enforce. Then there's the societal impact. Public resilience versus cynicism. Will we get better at spotting fakes? Or will we become so distrustful we don't believe anything, even genuine information? That's dangerous for democracy. And the AI versus AI info war itself is a dynamic conflict, with detection always chasing the latest generation techniques.
If detection alone isn't the answer, what practical measures, what guardrails do we need to protect information integrity?
It has to be a multi-layered strategy. First, build authenticity infrastructure. Support standards like C2PA for content provenance. Push for default watermarking and generative tools. Second, platforms need strong content provenance policies, requiring metadata, labeling manipulated media clearly. Third, strengthen verified information channels, fact-checkers, official sources, maybe using AI to help them scale. Fourth, massive investment in media literacy 2.0 education, teaching critical thinking skills, source evaluation, spotting manipulation tactics. Fifth, use AI itself for bot and spam detection to fight coordinated campaigns. Sixth, targeted legislation, banning malicious deepfakes, requiring transparency in political ads using AI. Seventh, rapid response teams involving government, tech, and civil society to counter viral fakes quickly. Long-term, maybe embedding digital provenance deep within AI models themselves.
What are the big unanswered questions here?
Will we demand truth defaults, only trusting content with a verified origin, potentially excluding valuable citizen content? How do we prevent anti-misinformation tools being used for censorship?
Right.
Can pre-bunking, inoculating people against fake narratives beforehand actually work at scale? How do we legally handle satire versus malicious fakes? And fundamentally, how does society recalibrate its trust when seeing isn't believing anymore? It's a massive challenge.
Now for the really concerning part. Misuse, security, and dual-use risks. AI being weaponized. Why is AI particularly dangerous here?
AI is dangerous here because its core capabilities, pattern recognition, prediction, automation, generation, can be turned to harmful ends. It's the classic dual-use dilemma. Technology created for good can be easily repurposed for bad. We're talking AI-powered cyber attacks becoming more sophisticated, finding vulnerabilities faster, AI potentially aiding in the design of bioweapons or chemical agents that chilling study designing nerve agent analogs showed the potential. AI enabling more autonomous weapons systems. These pose potentially catastrophic risks. And it's not just theoretical. We see malicious use cases already. Deepfake fraud, AI enhancing phishing attacks. We know about the dual-use research risks. There's a clear AI arms race happening globally, driving restrictions like U.S. chip export controls. And the security of AI systems themselves is a new attack surface model poisoning, adversarial attacks that traditional cybersecurity isn't fully equipped for yet.
The stakes feel incredibly high. What are the main arguments and controversies surrounding these security and misuse risks?
They're incredibly high, and the debates are fierce. A major one is whether to control the export of powerful AI itself, treating frontier models or the chips needed to train them like weapons technology. The U.S. restrictions on chip exports to China reflect this thinking. Autonomous weapons regulation is another huge international controversy. There's a campaign to ban killer robots laws outright, while major military powers often push back, preferring guidelines that still allow for human supervision, however defined. There's the tension between open research and security through obscurity. Should powerful AI research be published openly, allowing scrutiny but also potential misuse, or kept secret? OpenAI's shift to more closed models for GPT-4 reflects this dilemma. The security of AI systems within industries like finance is a growing concern, leading to restrictions on using external tools. And the whole debate around AI for mass surveillance versus human rights continues, especially regarding facial recognition and predictive policing.
So beyond these debates, what practical steps, what guardrails can we actually implement to try and mitigate these serious dangers?
Several layers of guardrails are needed. Governments are using export and collaboration controls on hardware and potentially software, plus dual-use reviews for research. Some propose compute licenses for training very large models. Within AI development, robust model security is key. Adversarial training to resist attacks, rigorous penetration testing, input validation to screen out malicious data. For deployed systems, strict access controls and continuous monitoring are vital, limiting who can train or fine-tune powerful models, monitoring API usage for abuse. And for autonomous systems, kill switches and fail-safes are essential emergency backups. Geofencing for drones, circuit breakers for trading bots. Institutionalizing red teaming specifically for security vulnerabilities is also crucial.
What are the big, scary open questions still looming in this area?
How do we handle algorithmic radicalization driven by social media recommendation engines? What about AI's impact on international stability? Could AI miscalculation lead to conflict? How do we police AI used by non-state actors like terrorist groups or cartels? What's a proportional response under international law to AI-driven attacks like massive disinformation campaigns? And how do we secure the global AI supply chain while fostering essential international cooperation on safety amidst geopolitical rivalry? These are profound challenges with potentially existential stakes.
Okay, let's shift gears to labor and the economy. AI is obviously changing work. What's the current feeling? Are we mostly seeing jobs disappear, or are people being augmented by AI?
Right now, it looks like a mix, but perhaps leaning more towards augmentation, though displacement is definitely happening too. The productivity gains are real. Studies show AI co-pilots cutting task times significantly, maybe 40%, and improving quality. Goldman Sachs projected a potential 7% boost to global GDP from AI. But the displacement risk is also real. The OECD estimated about 27% of jobs are highly automatable. Goldman Sachs mentioned 300 million jobs globally are exposed. We've seen companies like IBM pause hiring for certain back office roles, citing AI and education tech like check-facing layoffs due to ChatGPT. However, overall employment is still high in many places, and new jobs are being created. Data labelers, prompt engineers, AI ethicists, ML engineers. It fits the historical pattern of tech creating new roles. The big concern, though, is widening inequality. AI might boost wages for the AI savvy, while routine jobs stagnate or decline.
So not the immediate job apocalypse, but major shifts are underway. What are the main arguments or controversies surrounding AI's impact on work?
The debate is often polarized. AI will take your job versus AI will change your job. People disagree fiercely on the timeline and the scale of automation. Policy responses are another huge debate. Should we be seriously considering universal basic income, UBI, if mass automation happens, or focus on wage subsidies, job guarantees? So far, no major economy has gone the UBI route specifically for AI. The practicality of reskilling is questioned. Are current training programs enough? Can people realistically pivot quickly enough? History shows these transitions are often painful for workers. There's also concern about the quality of the new jobs. Are roles like data labeling providing decent, sustainable careers, or creating a low-paid gig underclass servicing the AI? And philosophically, what about human uniqueness and dignity? If AI starts doing creative or empathetic tasks, what's left for humans? Or should we focus on augmenting those unique human skills?
What are the big unanswered questions about AI and the future of work that we still need to figure out?
Huge questions remain. What's the long-term employment balance? Is this a one-time disruption, or will AI cause constant churn? How do we ensure fair economic distribution of AI's productivity gains? Taxing AI, stronger unions, new models are needed. How do we redefine work and purpose if less human labor is needed for survival? What gives life meaning beyond traditional jobs? There's a question of access. Training AI versus training people. Who gets access to the AI tools that augment work? How do we avoid a skills gap widening inequality? And finally, the risk of de-skilling. If we rely too much on AI for drafting, coding, even diagnosing, will our own fundamental skills atrophy over time? These are massive societal challenges.
Let's talk about AI's environmental footprint again. This has gained a lot more attention recently. Why is it such a big concern?
It's a huge concern because training and running these massive AI models consumes enormous amounts of electricity, and the data centers they run in use vast quantities of water for cooling. This translates directly into carbon emissions. Given the urgency of climate change, AI's rapidly growing energy demand is a serious issue. Its overall sustainability is questionable if current trends continue unchecked. It's a bit of a paradox because AI can also be used to optimize energy grids or design climate solutions. But the compute demands, especially with trends towards ever larger models, are staggering.
We talked about the GPT-3 training numbers. Is there more recent evidence on this?
Yes, the numbers remain striking. Training GPT-3 used about 1,300 megawatt hours, releasing over 500 tons of cool euro. Some projections suggest AI could triple data center energy demand by 2027. Water use is also significant, maybe half a liter per kilowatt hour for cooling, plus water used in generating the electricity itself. But location matters hugely. The Bloom model, trained in France using mostly nuclear power, emitted far less KRO, maybe 25 tons versus GPT-3's 500, shows the impact of clean energy sources. And on the positive side, AI is being used to help. DeepMind's AI cut Google's data center cooling energy use significantly. AI helps forecast renewable energy output and models climate change, so it's complex.
It really is that double-edged sword again, AI
Okay.
using energy, but also potentially helping solve energy problems. What are the main controversies around its environmental impact?
A big one is greenwashing versus real change. Are tech companies truly reducing emissions by buying renewable energy credits, or just offsetting while their actual consumption skyrockets? It's hard to verify claims sometimes. Regulation is another debate. Should training massive models require environmental impact assessments? Should AI projects have climate pledges? And the core tension, scaling versus efficiency. Will the hunger for bigger, more powerful models always outpace efficiency gains? Or will energy costs eventually force a plateau in model size? That's a huge unknown.
So what's being done to make AI greener? What are the practical trends?
There's a lot happening. R&D in green AI is a growing field, finding ways to make models smaller, more efficient, using techniques like sparse models or knowledge distillation. Carbon-aware scheduling, timing, computationally intensive AI tasks for when the grid has more renewable energy available. Renewable energy procurement by cloud providers is a major push, aiming for 100% renewables. Sharing and reusing models via hubs like Hugging Face avoids wasteful retraining from scratch. And continuous improvements in hardware and cooling technology, liquid cooling, using waste heat, are all trying to chip away at the problem.
What are the key unknowns for AI's environmental future?
Will model scaling hit a wall due to energy costs? What will AI's net effect on global emissions be, considering both its own footprint and its potential to optimize other sectors? And how much will public pressure force the industry to prioritize green credentials? It's a critical area to watch.
Okay, let's dive into copyright and intellectual property. This feels like a massive legal and ethical battleground right now. Why is this causing such a stir?
It's a massive stir because AI models learn by ingesting colossal amounts of existing content, text, images, music code, much of which is copyrighted. Then, they produce outputs that can resemble or mimic that training data. This throws up fundamental legal questions. Is training AI on copyrighted material fair use, or is it mass infringement? Should creators be compensated when their work is used to train commercial AI systems without permission? What about outputs that mimic an artist's style? Does that violate copyright or trademark? And who owns the copyright to stuff generated by AI, since current law requires a human author? These aren't abstract issues. Major lawsuits are underway that will set huge precedents for creative industries.
What's the latest evidence on how this is playing out legally and industrially?
We're seeing major lawsuits. Authors like Sarah Silverman suing OpenAI and Meta, Getty Images suing Stability AI. A key ruling in Thomson Reuters v. Ross suggested using copyrighted legal content for AI training might not be fair use in a commercial context. That's significant. There are also lawsuits over AI outputs reproducing chunks of copyrighted books. The U.S. Copyright Office has stated purely AI-generated images without human input can't be copyrighted. Industry is adapting too. OpenAI partnered with Shutterstock for licensed data. Getty launched its own AI trained on licensed images. Tools like Have I Been Trained let artists try to opt out. But many creators are still deeply worried about style mimicry and lack of compensation, lobbying hard for new rules.
So it's a clash between AI's learning process and creators' rights. What are the core controversies being argued right now?
The core controversies are huge. Training on copyrighted data. Fair use or infringement? That's the billion-dollar question, hinging on whether the AI's use is sufficiently transformative. Output infringement. When does AI mimicking a style cross the line into infringing copyright, trademark, or publicity rights? It's a fuzzy line. And AI as author. Can AI create copyrightable work? Who owns it? Current law says no, creating a vacuum. These are fundamental conflicts between how AI works and how IP law has traditionally worked.
What are companies and lawmakers actually doing to try and resolve this mess? What practical guardrails or solutions are emerging?
Things are moving fast. Licensing frameworks are popping up. Shutterstock, Getty. Collective licensing for text and music is being discussed, like ASCAP or BMI for music. Opt-out mechanisms like no-I tags or paywalls are becoming more common, though their effectiveness is debated. AI companies are implementing internal filters to try and prevent their models from spitting out verbatim copyrighted material. Legal reform talks are happening. U.S. Congress is holding hearings exploring new fair use definitions or compulsory licensing for AI training. And there are discussions about attribution norms, though technically crediting all influences on an AI output is incredibly hard.
What are the big open questions still hanging over AI and copyright?
Can AI-generated works get some kind of IP protection, maybe a new category?
Yeah.
How will different countries' copyright laws handle AI training? Will we get global standards or fragmentation? What's the real economic impact on human creators, displacement or augmentation? What are the cultural consequences if AI floods the market with derivative works? And how do we balance protecting creators with allowing transformative uses that drive innovation? This is far from settled.
Finally, let's touch on agents and embodiment. AI that acts autonomously, maybe even in the physical world via robotics. Why is this such a significant next frontier?
It's a huge frontier because it moves AI from just analyzing or generating information to actually taking actions in the world, either in software or through robots. This dramatically raises the stakes for safety and control. When an AI can autonomously execute a sequence of tasks, interact with a dynamic environment, maybe even coordinate with other agents, the potential for unintended consequences explodes. Traditional AI testing methods don't really capture these emergent, unpredictable behaviors. Early experiments showing agents organizing parties in simulations, while basic, hint at the complexity to come. We need robust ethical frameworks before these agents become highly capable and widespread.
What's the current state of the art? Are these agents really building civilizations yet?
Huh, not quite civilizations. But the progress is rapid. We saw early experiments like AutoGPT in 2023 showing agents could chain tasks, though they often got stuck. The Stanford Smallville simulation showed surprisingly complex emergent social behavior in a virtual town. The Minecraft agent Voyager learned complex skills autonomously. In robotics, we're seeing robots from places like Boston Dynamics using vision and language to understand high-level commands like check the stove. But even advanced systems like Tesla's full self-driving are still firmly level 2, requiring constant human supervision due to unpredictable failures. Evaluation is hard. There's a big sim-to-real gap. Things that work in simulation fail in the real world. There's no single benchmark for agent capability. And experiments like Chaos GPT, given harmful goals, show the alignment risk. Agent coordination is also advancing. Meta's Cicero playing diplomacy demonstrated sophisticated strategy and negotiation. So capabilities are growing fast, but control and safety are lagging.
So capable, but potentially unpredictable. What are the main ethical debates and controversies surrounding these autonomous agents?
The core tension is autonomy versus control. How much freedom can we safely give an AI agent? People worry about agents going rogue, even if current ones are limited. The ethics of robots in society is another big one in homes, elder care. Concerns about dignity, emotional manipulation, safety. Different cultures view this very differently. And there's the debate about supervised versus full autonomy. Should humans just set goals or actively manage actions?
What practical guardrails can we put in place now for developing and deploying these agents safely?
Guardrails are crucial. First, clear goals and constraints, defining precisely what the agent should do and, critically, what it must not do to prevent unintended negative side effects. Second, robust evaluation in real-world conditions, not just simulations. Testing for unpredictable edge cases. Third, human-in-the-loop oversight remains vital, especially for critical tasks, often mandated by policy like the EU's ban on autonomous social scoring.
And the big open questions for AI agents.
How do we handle scaling agent capabilities? What happens if they reach critical intelligence, able to improve themselves or build other AIs? What kind of regulation is needed should autonomous systems be treated like weapons? How do we develop human-robot interaction norms, etiquette, ethical treatment, and what's the long-term effect on human behavior if AI takes over more cognitive tasks? This is a rapidly evolving frontier demanding careful navigation.
Now, as promised, we want to give you that full 360 view, and that includes touching on some of the more contrarian or, let's say, fringe perspectives out there in the AI discussion. We need to address these responsibly. Let's start with full-speed accelerationism, the idea that AI will solve everything, so just hit the gas.
Right. This viewpoint basically argues that accelerating AI progress as fast as possible is the top priority, almost a moral imperative. Proponents believe AI holds the key to solving humanity's biggest problems. Disease, poverty, maybe even aging, with some making really extreme claims about massive lifespan increases, like 500 plus years by 2100. They see regulation and ethical hand-wringing as dangerous obstacles delaying this potential utopia. While AI tools like AlphaFold have dramatically accelerated science, claims about 500-year lifespans are pure speculation, far beyond current scientific understanding.
So how do we discuss this responsibly?
We acknowledge the genuine optimism and the real potential of AI to help solve major problems. But we have to stress the need for evidence, not just hype. And critically, we need safety nets. Unchecked acceleration, ignoring risks and ethical concerns could cause enormous harm long before any utopia arrives. The responsible path is likely a middle way. Harness the benefits, fund the research, but do it cautiously, with strong ethical guidelines and regulatory oversight, especially for high-impact applications. We shouldn't dismiss the potential, but we can't afford blind faith either.
Okay, then the flip side. The critique of ethics washing, the idea that corporate AI ethics is just for show.
This is a serious critique, arguing that much of the corporate AI ethics discussion is superficial, designed to preempt meaningful regulation and distract from deeper issues. The claim is that companies focus on easier technical fixes for things like bias, while ignoring systemic problems like data exploitation, unfair labor practices, or the societal impact of their core business models. Evidence cited includes things like ethics boards being dissolved, companies publishing principles but deploying questionable tech anyway, and a focus on fixing systems like predictive policing rather than asking if they should exist at all.
And the responsible take.
Is to agree that AI ethics must go beyond technical fixes. It has to grapple with power, justice, and systemic impacts. We should be asking, should AI be used for this application at all? Not just, how can we make it slightly less biased? It highlights the need for genuinely independent oversight, whistleblower protection, and ensuring ethics discussions aren't solely controlled by the companies building the tech. Technical fixes are part of the solution, but they aren't the whole solution.
Another common argument, often from businesses, precaution is stifling innovation. Too much regulation slows us down. Is there truth to that?
It's a recurring claim. Heavy regulation like the EU AI Act or constant ethical debate makes companies risk-averse, adds costs, especially for smaller players, and lets competitors in less regulated regions race ahead. There are legitimate concerns about compliance burdens for SMEs. However, the counter-argument, which we should responsibly present, is that smart, well-designed regulation and a strong ethical foundation actually enable sustainable innovation in the long run. They build crucial public trust, prevent catastrophic failures that could derail the entire field, think Boeing 737 MAX crashes analogy, and ultimately lead to higher quality, more reliable products. Ethical by design can be a competitive advantage. There might be short-term trade-offs, but prioritizing safety and trust often leads to better outcomes over time. It's about finding the right kind of regulation, not necessarily no regulation.
What about the debate between decentralize and open source everything versus keeping powerful AI locked down for safety?
This is a huge debate within the AI community. One side argues passionately that open sourcing models and data democratizes AI, prevents power concentration, and allows many eyes to find and fix flaws faster. They point to successes in open source communities improving models like Stable Diffusion. The other side raises serious safety concerns, arguing that openly releasing the most powerful frontier models makes it far too easy for bad actors to misuse them for large-scale harm, generating sophisticated disinformation, facilitating cyber attacks, or worse. They advocate for controlled access and staged releases.
How do we balance those?
A responsible discussion acknowledges the benefits of both. Openness fosters transparency, innovation, and community oversight. But uncontrolled release of potentially dangerous tech is risky. The path forward might be nuanced, maybe open innovation for research and less powerful models, but more caution and gated access or strong responsible use licenses for the cutting-edge stuff. It's about coupling democratization with robust safety mechanisms.
And that fascinating phenomenon, AIs are spiritual existential conversations. People feeling a deep connection or finding meaning talking to chatbots.
Yes, this is very real psychologically, even if the AI itself isn't sentient. People report profound emotional experiences, feeling understood, getting philosophical insights, even using chatbots for therapy-like interactions. Some may even project spiritual qualities onto the AI. A responsible take acknowledges this powerful human tendency to anthropomorphize and find meaning. AI can be a tool for introspection, reflecting human wisdom found in its training data, philosophy, psychology, spiritual texts. It can be a muse or a mirror. But crucially, we must maintain AI literacy. There's no scientific evidence of AI consciousness or subjective experience. We need to understand it's a sophisticated pattern matcher reflecting human input, not a sentient being or a source of divine truth. Recognizing the psychological effect without falling into misleading beliefs is key.
Then there's the provocative claim. Unethical to hire humans once AI is better, flipping the usual fear on its head.
This utilitarian argument suggests that if an AI demonstrably outperforms humans at a task, especially a safety-critical one, continuing to use humans is morally wrong because it leads to suboptimal outcomes or more errors. The strongest cases may be in medicine, AI catching errors humans miss, or potentially truly safe autonomous driving. However, a responsible discussion must point out this view is overly narrow for most contexts. It ignores human dignity, the value of work, empathy, ethical judgment, accountability, things AI can't provide. It risks reducing humans to less efficient machines. While the question is valid for very specific high-stakes safety scenarios, if AI is vastly safer for surgery, must we use it?
Yeah.
Applying it broadly dismisses too many crucial human and societal values. It's a thought experiment that highlights trade-offs, not a universal ethical rule.
We also hear technical claims like context windows to infinity and reasoning models. Are these real breakthroughs?
They represent real significant progress. Context windows, how much information an AI can handle at once, have exploded. Models like Claude handling novel-length inputs is a huge leap. Research on infinite context via retrieval aims to overcome limits by smartly pulling in external info. So, effectively infinite is the trajectory, even if literal infinity is hyperbole. And yes, specialized reasoning models like OpenAI's o1 are showing impressive abilities on structured problems like complex math, going beyond just predicting text. A responsible discussion confirms these advances but cautions against overstating them. Huge context doesn't equal true understanding. Specialized reasoning isn't general common sense. There are still limits, costs, and alignment challenges. It's progress, not magic.
And agents build civilizations. AI societies emerge.
Yeah, this refers to those multi-agent simulations like Stanford's Smallville, where AI agents showed emergent social behaviors organizing a party, forming routines. Meta's Cicero, playing diplomacy, showed strategic coordination. A responsible take acknowledges this fascinating emergent complexity in simulations, but clarifies these are small-scale, experimental, metaphorical. They hint at group dynamics but aren't actual civilizations. We need to avoid confusing these toy examples with the real-world complexity of human society or the idea of fully autonomous AI organizations, which is still speculative.
Finally, just quickly confirming some common claims. Social media, mental health links, deepfake prevalence, energy analogies.
Right. Social media, mental health. Strong correlation, especially for teen girls, but direct causation is complex and debated. It's best described as a significant contributory factor, amplified by AI algorithms, not the sole cause. Deepfakes prevalence detection. Yes, proliferation is rapid, hundreds of thousands heading to millions, and yes, real-world detection accuracy is worryingly low, 70%, making it a serious problem where detection isn't a silver bullet. Energy analogies. Comparisons like GPT-3 training using energy like 100 cars' annual emissions are generally based on solid estimates and effectively convey the scale. While specifics vary, the core message, AI has a significant and growing environmental footprint, is accurate and important. Hashtag tag outro.
Wow, we have covered an immense amount of ground today, really getting into the weeds of AI ethics from, well, seemingly every possible angle. To help everyone digest this, what are the absolute must-remember insights from our deep dive?
Okay, if you boil it all down, I think these 5 points are really key. First, remember AI's dual nature. It offers incredible potential for good, boosting productivity, helping science, enhancing our lives. But it comes packaged with serious ethical risks, bias, misinformation, and environmental costs. You can't separate the two. Second, the regulatory imperative is real and global. Led by the EU, rules are coming fast. They demand transparency, accountability, safety. Even if you're outside the EU, these standards are likely to affect you. Compliance is becoming essential. Third, humans remain key, especially in the loop. For decisions with real consequences, AI can assist, but human judgment, ethics, empathy are irreplaceable right now. We need to focus on effective human-AI collaboration, not just blind automation. Fourth, fixing AI ethics isn't just beyond tech solutions. Yes, we need better algorithms, but we also need broader societal changes. Better digital literacy, economic safety nets for job transitions, new legal frameworks, and ongoing public debate about values. And fifth, this requires continuous vigilance. AI ethics isn't a checklist you complete once, it's an ongoing commitment. The tech evolves, new issues emerge, we all need to stay informed, critical, and engaged developers, policymakers, and every single one of us using AI.
Those are really powerful takeaways. So for our listeners thinking about their own lives or their organizations, what are some concrete, actionable things they can do to engage with AI more ethically starting today?
Absolutely. For organizations, whether you're a business, an NGO, a government agency, here are some practical steps. Start with an AI inventory and risk register. Know what AI you're using, why, what data it uses, and what the risks are. Bias, security, safety, compliance. Document it. Embed ethics by design. Don't add ethics as an afterthought. Build it into the process right from the start of any AI project. Adopt transparency standards. Use things like model cards and data sheets. Be open about the training data for foundational models you use. Mandate meaningful human oversight for high-impact decisions. Ensure humans are involved and properly trained to supervise effectively. Institutionalize red teaming and bias audits. Actively try to break your own AI systems to find flaws and biases before they cause harm. Make it routine. Prioritize data governance and privacy. Conduct impact assessments, DPIAs. Use privacy-enhancing tech where possible. Give users clear opt-outs. Develop an AI incident response plan. Know what to do when things go wrong, just like a cybersecurity breach. Ensure accountability in contracts with your AI vendors. Clarify who's responsible for what. And monitor the environmental footprint. Choose greener providers when possible. Factor energy costs into your decisions.
Okay, that's a great list for organizations. What about for individuals in their everyday lives?
Individuals have power too. Practice AI skepticism. Verify content. Don't blindly trust AI outputs. Treat them as starting points. Fact-check important information, especially medical or financial advice. Cultivate your human edge. Focus on skills. AI doesn't have creativity, critical thinking, empathy, complex ethical judgment. These become even more valuable. Be transparent about your own AI use. If you use AI to help create something, disclose it. It builds trust. Watch for misinformation and deepfakes. Stay vigilant. Check sources. Learn the signs of manipulation. Develop those digital literacy 2.0 skills. And mind your AI usage footprint. Be conscious of the energy AI uses. Use it efficiently. Support companies committed to renewables. Small choices add up.
And for our listeners, maybe in Berlin or the EU specifically, any local pointers?
Yeah, absolutely. Engage with local initiatives like Algorithm Watch or research hubs at TU Berlin or Fraunhofer. Tap into EU networks like the European AI Alliance for collaboration and funding. Leverage guidance from your local data protection authority and watch for updates from the new European AI office. Connect with peers at local AI ethics meetups. Look for EU-based GDPR-compliant tools and promote AI literacy in your communities, schools, adult education centers. Get involved locally.
That's incredibly helpful and practical advice for everyone. Thank you.
You know, at the end of the day, the ultimate question isn't just whether AI can do something amazing, but whether it should. As AI becomes this incredibly powerful co-pilot in nearly every aspect of our lives, the responsibility for steering its ethical journey, it really rests with us, with humans. So the question for you, for everyone listening, is what kind of future will you choose to build with AI?
That is a powerful thought to leave everyone with. Thank you so much for diving deep with us today and sharing all that incredible insight. And thank you all for listening. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.